This is your spiritual path right here, right now. This moment right now is your spiritual path, meaning that you're not needing to have this idea of a particular way of doing things from your mind or from your patterns of thinking. Basically, the idea is right now is full of the consciousness and enlightenment, if we like to use that word, of what is really what we are seeking in life. We're seeking happiness, and then when we see that the deepest happiness is this thing that we read about in Buddhist philosophy class in college, of enlightenment or transcending this world. Okay, what I'm saying is this moment right here, what does that include? Think about what this moment right now includes. Not a lot of it is words. A lot of what exists right here, right now, is not possible with words. It's more of a sensing. It's not even a sensing because it's always here, even when you're sleeping and awake. So what could always be here in the moment is this. So yesterday on my video, I said this piece. So I want to continue claiming and saying that this is all that there is. This moment, this consciousness, this awareness, this aliveness, this being is here. So our spiritual path is full of our ideas of it. But we need to see that really this is the universe and not us. Spirituality is about kind of giving up, really, the idea that in the future there will become this time where I am happier. There will be this time where I have it. There will be this time where I will not have this suffering or this pain or this deadness that I feel right now. But yesterday in my video, I was talking about how the deadness can be overcome by simply being with this here now presence. So what is here? For example, my neighbor has been playing country music all afternoon, because here in Minnesota, it's kind of the first day of spring in a lot of ways. It's like 63 degrees and it was sunny. So I took a long jog today, and that felt really, really good to be outside and really experience. And that's the thing is our spiritual path. It's not about the experiences ultimately. It's not about experiencing something, right? We as humans, when we experience, it's always experiencing something. So it's subject, I, experience, verb, and then like the event would be the object, or the opening, or the transcendence, or the bliss, or that music concert or something. And that's not saying that we don't do those things. But what I'm saying is that's not this here now. That idea of I will have bliss at that point in time, or I had bliss in the past. That's not this. That is an idea that is ultimately distracting us from simply being. Simply being. And this is very, very included in our meditation practices, is being full of judging ourselves for either A, not meditating enough, or B, judging ourselves for during the meditation. Like, oh, I had that thought, I should not be thinking. So it's full of like shoulds, right? I should not be thinking about the future as I'm meditating. But the truth is that that is this here now. So our project, our goal is to allow everything that this includes, with the capital T, this world includes, this moment includes. So kind of slowing down here, what is this in comparison to our idea of our spiritual path or our life purpose? I've been struggling with this because, and that's why I made this video, is because I'm struggling with this personally, is, I have this idea of my spiritual path or my life purpose of, or even the idea of awakened, the idea of awakened. So awakened, right, is I have become awakened, is, that saying that happened, or that it was a time or a place that the awakened event happened, which is great, right? That's a great experience, an amazing experience, to experience the transcendence or pure consciousness, pure bliss, pure love, pure connection, pure diving into who you truly are in your soul, right? These experiences ultimately help us along the path, but that's not the path. The path is more like a circle. Okay, so there's this kind of famous drawing in Zen or painting where you get your paintbrush and you have your white canvas, you dip it in black paint, okay, and then you draw a circle. And then ultimately, so that the beginning of that circle is like full of black paint, so it's really thick. But then as you keep going, that thickness dissipates, and then return. So with the circle, you return back to where you started, and then ultimately the black paint kind of dwindles, but it kind of dwindles and ends into where it began with that thick black paint. Okay, so that is kind of a famous painting in Zen. But what that means is that is the representation of our circular path, and that's more accurate than the linear path. The linear path assumes that we are only living in time of the event begins and then the event ends. Like, I am not enlightened now, but in the future I will be enlightened. Okay, that is a way of talking. There's actually no truth behind that. It's just that it's a way of communicating from human to human, is the idea of enlightened with a D, versus this idea of the circular, always returning back to this, where it is more like the process of awakening is never over, or it's happening in outside of time. Outside of time, there is only this, there is only enlightenment, but also not enlightenment is also there. Everything is there. Absolutely everything is there as timelessness. Everything that we have thought and experienced that we think is in the future or in the past. So that's why it's not accurate to say the present moment either. That's why I say this, because it's really that there is no present moment, there's no future, and there's no past. There's also no here versus over there. So there's no space. There's no like geographical space either. But it's all included in this as just this. So this is the most accurate way to explain it, is zazen. So zazen means just sit. So the just, right? Just means no doing, non-doing, non-doing. So if I say just walk, just sit, or just this, refers to the non-action, action. So there is, I mean, if you look into what this is, honestly and openly, there is movement, there are people, there are events. But I'm not talking about the ideas that we're having in our mind, because those are just ideas in this. Those aren't the reality of this. So our mind is included in this, but as an aspect or like a cloud that is included in all of these other clouds and events that are included in this. So this includes our desire to awaken too, our desire to be happier, because right now we have desire. But when you say I have desire to awaken, what does that necessitate is at some point not in this, that there's going to be some point in the future that we're going to have this great experience, and that experience is going to continue, not as an experience, but as the way that we are. However, the nature of an experience is beginning and ending. Okay, so let me kind of be open and honest here. I have had awakenings that I believed were it. Like, I am awakened because I have this experience, and it is there for a while. It's there for a while. As the awakening experience is there for a while, say 3 days or a month or a weekend. But to be honest, those experiences they end up aiding me in this, but that no longer is this. That is now an experience I've had. But what is this then? So if I've had awakening experiences in the past, but I no longer have that experience, then where did it go? And I honestly, I don't really know the answer. I'm feeling into it, because what this is, guys, spirituality is much more like science than we think. Science and spirituality should be start to be seen as together. So we're using our experience to investigate this. So in science, the idea is we are using our senses to investigate the outside world. But in non-duality, we don't buy into that assumption that there is that duality between me, the seer, and the world, that and me, the seer, can actually know the world, even though we're separate. The two separate things. The seer can know the world. In non-duality, there's just this. And that's why there's so hard. It's so hard to use words. I mean, that's why I'm so passionate about jumping on here on YouTube and attempting it. Attempting to use human words, English, to try and explain something that is unexplainable. Because this is not the word "this" even with a capital T. When I use it, I believe that it's extremely accurate. I got this idea from Michael Gungor. I can't say that I'm the first one to say, oh, what this awakening is this, and that's the most accurate word. Well, I just agree with Michael Gungor that that true happiness is letting go of all of the ideas about spirituality and simply being here now as this. So our spiritual path is a pathless path, as they say in Zen. So in Zen is great because it talks a lot about the paradoxes. Okay, so the phrase in Zen is the gateless gate. So they're saying that it is a gate, but on one level, you see it. The human being sees the gate as a gate. So what is a gate is something that we use as a gate. So the idea is a gate does a process or something that we use it for, to do an activity or a job. But it's also, the gate is not a gate because when you go outside of it as an idea, and we are this, then the gate loses its gateness as an idea, but its gateness is now thisness, this, or suchness, as they say in Zen, suchness. So the such, or the this, includes the gate and does not include the gate. So that's why it's also very accurate to say the spiritual path is a path and it's pathless. So in Advaita, sometimes they say, you are already awakened. You are already enlightened. You have always been enlightened. And this is true because there is only enlightenment. Because the nature of this is Satchit Ananda, being consciousness bliss. When we are in this, it is Satchit Ananda, being consciousness bliss. But outside of that, we experience, or as an idea, we have the path that we believe that we are going towards. Yet again, the circles back to the pathlessness of just to this. Okay, so I unfortunately forgot where I was going with one of those ideas. So when that happens, is I just return to this, and in this, words appear, or a desire for me to say something appears. So that's how also language works, is that as this continues as this that's how conversations are as well, is things need to be said by speakers. So there's an energy called the conversation, but it's a conversationless conversation. So it's a conversation by our definition of the fact that there's one person and another person that are needed to have the conversation. Speakers. So we have speaker A and speaker B. But the conversation is more like the energy within this that is wanting to be expressed. So you might have experienced this with a friend where the conversation feels alive. It seems like there is really not a speaker. There's not a me and a them, and that there's really only the conversation. And that's seems to be true when you're in that flow state. So I talked yesterday also about the flow state of you're literally being brought out into this. You're being brought from the deadness, being brought from the thinking mind, the ego, and it's the ego kind of its grip is lost. So that grips you through your day. It grips me through my day. Frequently, the ego attempts to like hold us as like a slave to it, the thinking mind. But when we let go, or when we are in that flow state, and it's not a doing, it's not like I am going to do the flow state. It simply begins happening as this in this moment. So the flow state is much nicer to be in than simply being in our minds. Being in our minds. I'm going to grab my charger here simultaneously while I'm talking for my laptop. So getting outside of our minds is extremely important for being sane. So actually, get around this chair. So actually, to be ultimately happier, we want to be more frequently in the flow state and not in our minds. So how do we do that, right? That's always the question, is how do we get out of that stressful way of thinking? There's a couple of ways. Is beginning to see that this spiritual path is not yours. So ultimately, yes, it is yours, but not you as the ego, as the path. The ego wants you to believe that you are the ego and not this openness, the openness of this. But it is extremely scary to the ego to let go of that grip, or as you begin to see that you are not the ego, or as you begin to continue down the path of surrendering your body and your mind, that this body, this mind, you letting go and surrendering into this rather than the ego. But ultimately, there's no duality at all in anything. So there's no duality between the ego and God, or the ego and this. But for where we are now, in the 21st century with capitalism and modern science, we're living in this materialistic world where we believe that there are subjects and objects and separate things, and this has led to a lot of economic boom. I call it the fossil fuel fiesta. This is kind of the age that we're in, and I was kind of thinking on my jog today too that like what humans are doing right now is we're exploring only one aspect of what we can truly be. Okay, right now we're really, really exploring the human ability to conquer nature in order to feel comfortable and convenience. So being comfortable and the convenience is actually, it helps us survive, but comfort and convenience are actually the next level above just mere survival. And those can help you in spirituality, but they can also hurt you if you get too attached to them, too attached to the comfort, too attached to the convenience of everything. Okay. So in this spirituality, our goal is to not be attached to the comfort, even though you might need things and want things, but we see that those things also begin and end, just like our life. So ultimately, now this is going to be something hard to follow, or something hard to swallow, is that you begin and end. So really dive into this, dive into yourself. This thing that you call your life, it's just a fact. It's a fact that you die, but really dying so far has felt like that's other people die, but not me. There seems to be something part of human nature that says that's not going to happen to me. Other people get in car crashes, or other people get cancer. But that stuff, if it's God's plan, will happen to us too. We don't know what that is yet, obviously, but negative things that we perceive as negative ultimately will happen to us. And the ultimate negative thing for us as egos and personalities and people is that we are going to die too. This life that we have will end. But this is why spirituality is so important, because this life will always be this life. That's more like what you actually are, is this life. This, and death is included in that. So that's why, life really ultimately doesn't have an opposite. Death is simply a part of life. sleeping, dreamless sleep is a part of life. So there can be, an experience of I'm experiencing something else. That's a part of this dream that we call life. Dreaming, the dream state, is a part of the dream that we call life. But also the non-experience of dreamless sleep is also a thing that we call, or it's also life, but it's much different from what we normally experience in the awake state or dream state, where it's like, I experience something. In that state of pre-birth or probably death, and in dreamless sleep, it's simply it's this. It's an aspect of this. It's, some people call that the original state. Our original state is where we were before we were born, or probably where we're going to go when we die. That's, they call that the original state. But it seems like when we're going through our daily life, that original state is gone. Again, because this busyness seems to be that it feels that it's disconnected from like the dream world or sleep, dreamless sleep. But if we say that, I believe in non-duality, that means everything is one. So that means that everything you experience is ultimately the same. The essence of all of your experiences is the same essence. So also just the purity of the existence within as the pre-birth state must also be this here now. So the question is, can we feel it? Well, feeling seems to be more like a human or an animal thing. Having feelings or even having sensations seems to be a human thing to do, right? So we're brought into this human experience, at birth, or not really at birth. It's probably more like when we're 2. I don't know. It's really hard to think about, because like, when was your first memory? Or when do you think that you started to be you from your subjective experience? I don't remember being born, right? So there's something that's kind of being that I am that is disconnected from this body. So I know that's a belief that I could tell you, like, you are not the body. That's a non-dual belief. But really, when we try and experience, or really be honest with our experience, or gentle with our experience, as Amota Ma says, being gentle with our experience, we can really investigate into who you truly are, and be like Ramana Maharshi and ask, who am I? So that question is also like the pathless path, just asking, who am I? And diving into the I asking the question. Who is it that is asking the question? Who is it that's living this life? Who is it that is experiencing dreaming? Who is it that's listening to this video? Who's listening? For me, who is it that's talking? Who is it that's making the video? Who is it that's in this body, in this mind, using this mouth to talk. And is there a word for that? And is that an identity? So do you have an identity? Ultimately, do you have an identity then? Or what is your identity? Is that you? That's another way of saying it. Is in this world of humans, like we use identities to be a character in this story of like, the economy, COVID-19, going to school, going to work, going to sleep, having friends and family. Like for some reason, we're also a particular character in this story of living life as a human. Right? Like I don't wake up in the morning and all of a sudden I am Steve. Again, that's a great video on YouTube. Great song, I Am Steve, if you want to listen to something hilarious. So I don't wake up as Steve. Every morning I wake up as Kyle. So that's why, I am Kyle. But as I'm continuing to be honest with thisness, I could just start snapping my fingers like this. Yeah, I guess I don't have anything to add to that. Simply experiencing and being honest in your experience with this here. It's here and it's not here. It's now and it's not now. It's this and it's not this. It's not this, neither this nor that, and it's that and this. That's from Jainism. There's a long word that, so if you go on Wikipedia and type in Jainism, Jainism, you can read about like there's a few tenets in Jainism, and one of the tenets, I think there's 4 of them. One of the 4 is this aspect, basically it's paradox. And the paradox is saying like, it's this and it's that. It's not this and it's not that. And now I'm kind of forgetting how it goes, but there's 4 of them. So I'm going to look it up on YouTube, Wikipedia after this, but also if you're curious, that kind of literally, it's kind of like a Zen koan by reading that, because it brings you outside of your mind. So a koan in Zen, Koan, is a phrase or a story or a parable. This is why Jesus also talked in parables, because it's meant to bring you outside of your conceptual mind and return to the original this. Just the relaxed state of being who you really are. So it's also helpful, like, just to kind of slow down and not talk. Sometimes I like get really excited and I just like want to say things. But ultimately, like, everything I'm saying is not what I mean. So that's why having this podcast is really amazingly fun, but it's like almost impossible. I don't really know why I do it, to be honest. It seems to help me, and I hope that it helps you guys. So But really, if I could do the actual teaching, I wouldn't do it as Kyle. um, it would be, just this. Breathing, the balance of black and white, day and night. It's simply inhale and exhale, always. The never ending, the never ending, and it never began, yet because it's outside of time, it never began and it will never end. The inhale and the exhale. So it looks like there's no questions. And I'm kind of running out of words or things to say here. So again, returning to who you have always been. It does not require effort to be who you are. That's why it's called effortless effort, actionless action. So in your spiritual path, don't, and I'm talking to myself basically, don't try to do spirituality. Spirituality is simply, and it's not simple either, but it's what it is. It's not a doing, it is what you have always been and what will always be. So it's a surrendering all of the anxiety and feeling into, or opening and being honest with, what is this? And not even needing an answer to that question, but just continuing to ask, what is this? Like I brought the acorn back from yesterday. So not diving into the science of what this is, but simply, what is this? And then asking it again, what is this? Or you can say, why does this exist? And asking it again, why does it exist? Yes, but why? Yes, but why? Yes, but why? Right? That's why kids ask that all the time. Yes, but why? And it just keeps going. It goes deeper and deeper. And it goes so deep that it just returns back to this. So it's a going out and continuing to go out so far that you end up back where you have always been. So I can't remember which poet or which poem, but they said you go out on an adventure in order to come back home and see, and it's like seeing your home for the first time. So it's getting out of that deadness that I talked about yesterday. Leaving the deadness idea behind, or the ordinary, seeing the world as ordinary, and seeing life more like what a poet, or how a poet sees life. So pretend like you are, a poet, or maybe part of your spiritual path right now. I don't know what this wants you to. I don't know what this moment is pushing you or pressuring you to do, or what are you being pulled to do right now. But perhaps it's reading a poem, and finding your favorite. Like, do you have a favorite poem? I have a couple of favorite poems, and it's an incredible experience to have a favorite poem and read it. And reading it with the sense of like you're reading it for the first time again and again and again. And that's how you should approach yourself. That's how I want to approach myself, is like, I'm not the static idea. I'm not the identity that I can point to. I can't ultimately point to a solid thing that I am. Because the nature of this is evolution. And the nature of evolution is that there's only evolution, and there's not, and the parts inside of the evolution are only there to help evolution. So it's much more accurate to say that I am evolution. And inside of this evolution, things are born and things die. And that is beautiful. The beauty of coming into existence, or coming into life and going out of life. That's the nature of being something in particular, like what you and I are. Being something in particular is if you imagine spring, like right now, it's springtime in Minnesota. I'm excited for the plants to bud. I'm so excited for the trees to bud. Even though I know that in the fall, they're going to change color and the leaves are going to fall. So if you watch some like nature videos of plants, springing up from seemingly nowhere, and then they die. That's kind of a funny line from Nacho Libre, if you like that movie. And then they died. End of story. Well, that's it for today. If you guys have any questions, you can type that away. But I guess to finish, returning to this heart, returning to this inhale, returning to this exhale, and returning to this relaxation, and relaxing the ego, relaxing the mind, relaxing the face, relaxing your eyes, relaxing your jaw, relax the throat, relax the shoulders, relax the hands and the fingers, the chest, relax your heart, ribs, upper belly, lower belly, pelvic area, genitals, upper legs, calves, feet, and toes. And then returning back to the top of the head. And saying, I give this to you. This is not me. This is you now. And thank you. So thank you guys as well. Peace. See you next time.